Bartholomew Town, brought to you in part by the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, Half Street Group, and Newport Film.
Bartholomew Town.
It's an interesting story, kind of at the intersection of environmental stewardship, private-public flexing of resources. It's been a real journey, and that is the Johnson's Pond saga in Coventry. Anybody who doesn't know Johnson's Pond, it's officially known as the Flat River Reservoir. It's nearly 700 acres, and it's a spot that a lot of people in Coventry, West Warwick, really anywhere, would cite as a place they grew up on. Water recreation, boating, fishing, swimming, a lot of events, so on and so forth. This, again, it's sort of a landmark of the region. In 2020, Socia Holdings purchased the pond's water flow rights and dam lease for about $1.7 million, and it essentially created a shift in public and private operational control. This led to conflict. Soon after the purchase, residents started to notice that there were significantly lower water levels, which had a major effect on the recreational aspect of the pond, as well as the value of properties around the pond. There was suspicion that the new owners, Socia, were intentionally manipulating the water level. Socia Holdings defended their actions by citing safety concerns about the dam, that component of their acquisition. That was back in April of 2021. Rhode Island's Department of Environmental Management refuted that claim, saying there was no such safety risk. Legislative action, regulatory action ensued in July 2022. Rhode Island enacted a new law that required owners of large dams to obtain DEM permits before adjusting water levels and to maintain what is described in quotes as historic levels until permits are issued. And then DEM issued a cease and desist to Socia, mandating that the water levels be raised and stream flow reduced due to the threats to the wetland ecosystems in general and the recreational use there. So there's been a lot of legal and conservation clashes around this, inclusive of engagement from the town council in Coventry, whose solicitor Stephen Angell joins us here today. Most recently, in July, DEM and the Rhode Island Department of Health have issued health advisories due to blue-green algae that is blooming in parts of Johnson's Pond. This is just one element of an overall saga that has unfolded. Stephen, thanks for your time today. Give us, after that sort of executive summary, give us in terms of where we are today. Where does the Johnson's Pond saga stand right now from the town's perspective and just in general?
Sure. I mean, obviously, the ongoing operations, if you will, with respect to the pond continue. You mentioned in your introduction about blue-green algae, for example. There are any number of environmental issues related to the pond that were delayed, if you will, in their, being dealt with simply because, Socia Holdings didn't give a damn. And they didn't, they fooled around with the water levels to the point where, it created problems with the normal ecological flow of the flora, fauna, and aquaculture. And now that we're back on a more regular timetable in terms of treating things like algae and things of that nature, you need to get back on the balance beam a little bit. So, in this year, of course, we've had some drought conditions, which work their own hardships on management of the environment. Councilman Pasqua in particular has been very active, with respect to bringing items to the attention of the council with respect to the aquaculture, the flora, the fauna, the necessary weed abatement treatment that, hadn't been done for 4 years. That's necessary for the pond. So those types of things are being done on a regular basis. Since the town condemned the pond, at the time the town condemned the pond, there was an immediate risk created by some work done on the dam by Socia Holdings. The town literally jumped in, contracted with folks to make the proper repairs, long-term repairs, not just Band-Aids, long-term repairs. They've been effectuated. The people on the pond have had a summer with respect to the recreational use of the pond as a result of those efforts. And really the treasure provided by the town of Coventry and the town council to do that. The lawsuits with social holdings continue. They come in a couple of different flavors. There's a state court action initiated by him some time ago relative to the breach of the lease. Then there's an action pending that we stepped into the shoes of social holdings, an action brought by the Department of Environmental Management with respect to the overall management of the dam and the damage that was done to it and the remedial repairs that needed to be done. In the meantime, we've negotiated a dam operations permit with DEM so that we have a rather clear understanding as to how the water levels in the pond will be managed and calibrated by the town. That's part of all of that. We're doing that too. Um, the the former owners of the pond failed to file their petition in state court to argue over our valuation of the pond. So we have filed to foreclose, that matter and put an end to that litigation. That's ongoing. And then, of course, in the meantime, Social Holdings hired a new lawyer to sue everybody known to mankind for everything from Johnson's Pond to the kitchen sink, only this time in federal court. And that's an ongoing piece of litigation. I won't get too deeply into that.
Let's distill this a little bit, because I think there's always been a bit of a question in my mind, and I think a lot of people's mind on this story. Why would somebody purchase a pond and potentially drain a significant amount of the water? What's the added value for Social Holdings to be engaged in the draining of Johnson's Pond? The initial thought is, well, does it expand access to land to develop on? Obviously, regulatory environment being what it is, that's pretty much a pipe dream anyway. But what would possibly make them want to do this?
Well, and Bill, I've discussed this in the past. I mean, I'm as bewildered as anybody as to why this would be, and the logical conclusion is that he wanted to hold the town hostage and be bought out at a high, an exorbitantly higher price. Because to your point, I mean, you can't drain a pond and develop the middle of it. I mean, DEM gets involved. I mean, Mother Nature gets involved. It's a pipe dream, as you said, and so the only conclusion we can reach, and by the way, the conclusion had sussed itself out over the course of years before I got here. You wanted 100 million for it. You wanted 60 million for it. I mean, it was just what he wanted. Bears no relation to its actual value, and I think we've demonstrated that. In the expert opinions that we provided in the condemnation case. So it's the saga. I couldn't tell you what goes through the guy's mind. I wish him good luck with his mind and his thoughts on the pond and everything else. But right now my focus is on preserving the natural resource that is Johnson's Pond, and making sure that the town has the ability to exercise its rights on behalf of the people to provide public access, public benefit, and recreational use of the pond to make sure the dam and its structures are in fine working condition. That's
So
my
with
focus.
that, with that in mind, in terms of just, hey, this is, I don't know if it's really a pump and dump scheme, but it's, you can make the argument that it's a scenario where you're trying to raise the value of something simply because of a desire by the town itself and its residents and those who use the pond to get it back so they can have it back. It's almost that kind of, just there's no real. First of all, we can't prove that right now that that's what's happening. That's what you're suspecting. But there's really no other way to look at it. In reality, why would you drain a pond? It just seems like an economic move. So you're talking about somebody in the context of environmental stewardship, resource stewardship, private versus public sector. What kind of world do you want to live in? These are the kinds of questions that people are asking here. Hey, wait a second. You took our pond away and now you're draining it. We want it back and we want to have control of it. So moving forward, what allowed for in the deal itself? What allowed for this to even take place, and what can Coventry or other municipalities or other even states that are dealing with bodies of water, what can they learn from this to thwart this type of activity from potential private sector acquisition of water bodies of water?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you, metaphorically. It's why if you're an intelligent person, you have a primary care physician and you go every year whether or not you feel good or you don't, because they put you through a variety of tests. Municipalities or municipal corporations, they're no different than private or publicly held corporations, except that in the municipal world, they don't spend a whole lot of time on legal compliance and risk management. And, okay, let's just do a lease and, this is what we'll do. It was a crappy lease. It wasn't well thought through. It wasn't well planned. There was no risk assessment with respect to the underlying assumptions and suppositions with respect to the performance of the lease. I mean, if you look at the former owner, the two owners ago, Quidnick Reservoir Company, they were a benevolent owner, and just didn't crawl through the loopholes in this lease to put the sort of undue pressure on the town and the inhabitants.
Bartholomew Town.
Are you ready to take the next step in your career? At URI Online, they offer business and leadership-focused programs designed to fit your life. Whether your goal is to advance your career in fields like public administration, supply chain management, or training and development, their online programs provide the flexibility you need with a high-quality education you deserve. Learn more from experienced faculty and collaborate with a network of professionals, all from the comfort of your home or wherever life takes you. Visit uri.edu/online to explore programs and start building your future today. URI Online. Learn anywhere with us. Newport Film is celebrating 15 years of outdoor documentary film screenings every Thursday through August 28th. New critically acclaimed documentaries curated from Sundance, South by Southwest, and Tribeca screen at ever-changing, iconic outdoor locations across Newport and Aquidneck Island. A beloved summer tradition. Pack your blanket and lawn chair. Arrive early for free popcorn, live music, and filmmaker conversations. Head to newportfilm.com for all details. As Rhode Island's first ever member-owned credit union, Navigant Credit Union has been a staple in the local business community for more than 108 years. Yeah. Today, Navigant is a $3.4 billion institution serving more than 136,000 members across 25 physical branch locations. But since its founding in 1915, the mission has never changed. Navigant Credit Union's team of financial professionals have remained committed to improving the financial well-being of the families, businesses, and communities they serve across Rhode Island. Learn more at navigantcu.org. Half Street Group brings a new generation's perspective to leadership communications, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street helps organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience, message, and culture, and by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. Join me and Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea for a conversation every month about news of the day, the hottest media analysis, and a look behind the scenes at how impactful leaders drive conversations. Learn more at halfstreetgroup.com.
Around the pond the way Socias did. Those circumstances existed in that lease. They were never foreclosed. So my advice to municipalities, when your general counsel or your solicitor says to you, we ought to take a look at this, or your leadership says to you, there are things we need to be concerned about here. We need to spend some money and do a deep dive. I can tell you that the tens of thousands of dollars that would have been, invested in an exercise like that up front would very easily have saved this town, over $1 million in terms of acquisition costs and expense. Experts are expensive, and we've been forced into that. This town was ill prepared. It's all about preparation.
Yeah, it seems like that's what we're looking at right here for sure from the outside looking in. So what's the next step here as this stands today?
Well, the next step here is to bring bring these matters to a close in court, so that the town can focus its energies on being a good steward of the natural resource and then really developing it as they see fit, with respect to providing a public benefit to the residents of Coventry and to the larger surrounding area with respect to access to the pond in a way that's ecologically sound. That's really what's on the grid here. So,
What about for the Coventry residents or even the adjacent West Warwick residents that, did grow up on this pond and they're worried about, hey, is there a future for this pond to be a functional recreational environment, a functional environmental centerpiece, really, of a community? And they're, obviously you're not here to do therapy or predict the future, but do you feel like people should be optimistic that they're going to have their resource back?
well, look, I can tell you what I see from my chair right now today. I mean, I've, come into possession of facts that indicates that this is one of the largest inland bodies of water in the entire state of Rhode Island, which makes it significant for that reason alone. There are a variety of aquifers and bodies of water and rivers and impoundments that pour into Johnson's Pond that then further themselves on into the Patuxent Valley watershed. Uh, Obviously, the world as a whole is experiencing some environmental changes, but I don't see this one changing anytime soon. Certainly not in my lifetime or yours, which makes it significant to people. So the concern is warranted. So what do I see today? I see a town council in Coventry that has exercised the political will to preserve a resource and provide for a future. That's that's what I see today. Legally, we've fought the fight, the good fight. We will continue to fight it. We'll continue to absorb whatever punishment comes with that. But certainly, ultimately, we own a pond. There's no changing that. Okay,
Yeah.
the town owns a pond. We'll continue to advise them on that to the extent that they need our advice in development and litigation and so forth. But right now, today, as a forward-facing piece, folks had a summer on the pond.
Yeah.
That's
That's
that's the bottom line.
Yeah, those are the facts, and it seems sustainable from the expertise you've been able to either coalesce around you or just in general have offered feedback. It seems to be a sustainable thing. Is that true?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
I
Last
mean,
question.
I'll
Oh,
be
please.
frank with you, Bill. I would not have. Folks don't understand that every lawyer functions differently, and just like car mechanics, salesmen, every really profession today. You have your good folks and you have your bad folks. You have your folks that are motivated simply by profits. To use your words, pump and dump. Um, I have offered a menu of options to the town that I believe are sustainable options and come here to be reckless. Um, Clients are free to tell you to do, whatever they want you to do. I don't have to be free to exercise those options if I think that somehow they're, incongruous with the law in some fashion. And I think what's been done here is reasonable and sound. And that's been my advice all along. The council allowed me to put together a team of what I considered to be experts. Um, I think, it's one thing to say that, it's like allowing your manager to pick the players for the baseball team. Alex Cora decided in May that his team wasn't playing real well, and they dumped some talent and some payroll, and everybody said, "Well, I hope the young guys from the farm know how to play." And as we sit here today on August 25th, the if the playoffs started today, the Sox are the wild card team. So these folks allowed me to put my team together. Now, I took the risk too, by the way, because if that doesn't work, whose team is it? Well, it's
That's right.
Angel's team. We're going to run him and the team out the door. I get it. I get it. But as Bill Parcells once said, if you're gonna tell me to make the meal, you have to let me buy the groceries. And they allowed me to do that. And they wanted to win, and get their pond back was the win, and they got their pond back. It's good to work with people who see things that way and give you good direction. So I'm optimistic about the future of the pond. I'm sincerely happy, by the way, for the town of Coventry and the folks around there who, enjoy this resource.
Yeah, head coach and general manager Stephen Angell here as he leads really what has been a remarkably interesting saga and travel of story around Johnson's Pond in Coventry. Thanks so much for making your time today. And Coventry Town Solicitor, I should be formal in that regard, but thanks so much for making the time.
Anytime, Bill. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Bartholomew Town is a truly independent news organization, accredited by Lion, the leading consortium of independent news providers in the country. And we certainly thank our sponsors, Newport Film, the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, Half Street Group, and many others who have helped sustain our journalism. And we also thank our listeners who have supported us at patreon.com/BartholomewTown, or you can click the little heart wherever you're listening right now. For as little as $3 per month, you too can help sustain independent journalism in Rhode Island.